everybody, welcome back to No Life to Metal. My name is Scott Waters, and this is
Trog.
And we are back for the top 15 of 1984.
Because we couldn't whittle down to top 10, so we got top 5, and we got another 5 for him, another 5 for me.
Yep. But pretty much all these could be in the top 10.
Whatever.
That's because I love the albums he's going to show, and I'm sure he likes some of them I'm going to show. It was just impossible to get it down, man. It was just impossible. All right, first up, this is an EP, STRYPER, Yellow and Black Attack. We have two different covers here. I have...
I got the bad one.
This,
the initial...
The first pressing, he's holding in his hand.
The more rare one, right?
It's a little more rare because it's the first pressing. And as you can see, the hand of God is cut off, and one of the band members' initials is cut off the missile down here. Yep. And everything is much... It's just much bigger.
Yeah, it's like they just did the enlargement and the cut were just done wrong.
Yeah, this is the correct or second pressing of the album. As you can see the full hand of God. You can see the Robert Sweet initials. Regardless, that's why it was changed. The initial pressing also did not have a. There's no bar in the back. You know the.
Oh, this one doesn't have one either.
Yep.
The UPC code.
And I do have two pressings here that are original. One's yellow vinyl, one's black vinyl. Yellow and Black Attack.
Yep.
So we've got three of them here. Regardless, very heavy album, very unique for a Christian band. There wasn't a whole lot out there like this, especially on a
major label,
a label that wasn't Christian.
Yep.
Playing the bar scene
on Enigma,
and playing with every other band that was out there. They weren't trying to play to youth groups and
no, really, they wouldn't have been accepted by that crowd anyway. They were they had already been on the scene as Rock's Regime, and with the name change and the image change and the beliefs change, they just kind of stuck where they were.
Yep.
So, yeah, STRYPER, I mean, really pretty unique. There weren't a whole lot of bands. The one we were talking about earlier, Stricken or Striking, whatever.
Yeah.
Were they around the same time?
They were supposedly around the same time, but I didn't know who they were. And
no.
Hardly anybody did. So, but anyhow, you got some real heavy songs on here. Loud and Clear and Come On Rock. Come On Rock's pretty upbeat, fast, almost a speed metal song. Loud and Clear is just straight up heavy metal.
And now there's something with the mixes on this too, right? This is the original.
This is the original mix. This was later remixed, and two additional songs were added to it, and it had a new blue vinyl and a rounded cover.
And the production was a lot
cleaner, and
this is the more gritty.
Again, this is another example of the grittier production is actually better than the.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, good album. And of course, with every STRYPER album, you do have your one schlocky ballad.
Ballad.
You've got Loving You on here. You Won't Be Lonely, that was what it was. Because Loving You was Loving You. Yeah.
It got heavy.
Should be a keto, I think.
Well, it took me a second. Well,
STRYPER.
It should be in key. So we go from STRYPER to Ronnie James Dio. His second album, 1984, after the much-lauded Holy Diver album, which was like one of the classic metal albums ever.
Yep.
I mean, what a great metal album. This is a suitable follow-up.
Very.
I will say probably not quite as on point as the first one, but still, by no means, it's still
darn close.
Great album.
Pretty darn heavy too.
Yeah, We Rock. Almost as much of an ass kicker as Stand Up and Shout, really. Yep. I mean, the formula stayed pretty much the same. I Speed at Night's another real upbeat ass kicker on this one.
But you also have that more gothic sound here too on
that one.
Yep.
On Egypt, yeah, it's kind of a little
slower,
more epic.
almost a little doomier, almost Sabbathy, but not really. But
or like maybe going in the direction of Stargazer or Gates of Babylon,
Rainbow,
like Rainbow did.
Exactly.
So obviously Ronnie had a hand in that as well. Great album. I mean, you can't really go wrong with these first two Dio albums. No matter what anybody says.
I did see Dio on this tour with Twisted Sister opening up the Spectrum.
Okay. I did not see this tour, but I did see the Holy Diver tour.
I saw the Holy Diver tour too in Philadelphia. It's funny. I saw the Holy Diver tour with Twisted Sister opening at a little club called the Tower Theater, and then the very next year they sold out the Spectrum.
So
they went from playing a little club.
Having not being familiar with Philadelphia,
the Spectrum was
huge.
The Spectrum was the Flyers Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was from 1 year of playing a little, you know, can hold 2,000 to, you know, several thousand. So I don't know exactly how many it was, but
And the title track on this, probably my favorite. It's epic.
that's a great
You know,
song.
you got another representation of Murray, whoever the hell that guy is.
He stuck around for quite a while too.
He did. He's one of the. I mean, I forget about Murray when it comes to band mascots, but that's really what he was.
And again, this album easily could have been in our top 5, easily.
Yeah. All right, your shot.
This is an album that I discovered this band from their first EP.
Oh yeah.
Loved it.
Yep.
And this is QUEENSRYCHE.
Yep.
And when this came out, I was so anxious for another album from them because all we had was that EP.
Yeah, 4 songs.
And Queen of the Reich, man, that song was so great.
I couldn't
The
get
vocals
enough
were
of
just
that.
otherworldly,
And Jeff Tate, for vocalist, Jeff Tate was a game changer because, really, who else was operatic quite like he was? How many have imitated his style
ever since?
Since,
Mm-hmm.
tons.
And I love this album. I liked this album so much that when I was in high school, I painted this image right here in the back of my denim jacket.
How many of these did you have, man? You had a bunch of stuff you painted on
Well,
jackets.
my first denim jacket had an Aerosmith logo painted on the back.
You had Mercyful Fate, Don't Break the Oath.
That I painted for somebody else.
Oh, okay. That's why. You were doing them for other people.
Yeah, and I painted the Iron Maiden one too for somebody else.
That's
I used to get paid in high school to paint jackets for people.
Nice.
Yeah. I paint them with acrylic paints, and then I go over top with another clear acrylic to seal it off. And
So you've always been kind of artistic and graphically
yeah, that's what I was
involved.
Yeah. Anyhow, I painted this image on my back of my denim vest. I got rid of this logo and put the logo from the first EP on there instead.
Awesome.
Because I like that logo better.
Yep. And really, the style on this album was a little bit different.
A little
the EP.
bit.
It was a little more progressive.
A little more progressive, and the production was a little more towards the hard rock as opposed to the metal thing.
I mean, the first EP was just straight out, balls out heavy metal, played by very accomplished musicians.
Right.
Really, and here I guess they started even the early steps towards being that kind of thinking man's metal band kind of thing.
It's a great
album.
great band, and they actually
Roads to Madness.
They actually look good here too, unlike the next album.
Yeah, it was an interesting look.
Yeah,
I will say that
definitely different. Everyone else didn't quite like them, but yeah, I thought they looked.
Oh, Take Hold of the Flame. Great song. Great metal anthem.
And the Warning.
The Warning.
Which we shouldn't sing.
We should at least attempt to sing in key, though.
Yeah. So yeah, Take Hold of the Flame was a massive song. Deliverance.
Before the storm, before the storm, before the storm. Oh! Something like that.
Yep. Wrote them, and it's a great album.
Child of fire. It doesn't matter how you sing as long as you get the hand of doom out there.
Yeah, it's a fantastic album, man. I've always liked the artwork too. I love the hand painted '80s look. You just don't look like that anymore.
And it's just cool. And it's not, it's not something it was hard to represent. It's like, okay, it's not often that you see a tarot-looking card with X-ray eyes. So really, there's nothing to compare it to. So you can't say it looks funny because you've never seen it before.
Right. Floating out in space. Anyhow.
Wow, this didn't make the top 5. The top 5 must be really good.
Yeah, I told you guys would be surprised that some of these didn't make the top 5.
Really, part 2 of Screaming for Vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
Defenders of the Faith. This is the first tour I saw Priest on. Aside from the obvious attempt at continuing to cash in on the success of Screaming for Vengeance with the similar kind of layout, which at first glance I thought was a bit cheesy, but the music was definitely not.
Yep.
This is a solid metal album from really the guys who wrote the book on that type of metal in the 80s, really. I remember at first listen I liked it, and it just kept getting better the more I listened to it. And because I was breaking away from Screaming for Vengeance, because I loved that album so much.
Yeah, Screaming for Vengeance for me, and I think I said it in the last video, it's the definition of what is heavy metal. There it is.
Yeah, in the 80s, for sure. Yeah, you got that for sure. There's really, again, it's not a bad song on here. Even had a couple of fairly successful singles. We had, what was it?
Some Heads Are Gonna Roll.
Heads Are Gonna Roll was a big one. And was it Love Bites?
It might have been, and I think that's actually one of the better songs too of the two. I think Heads Are Gonna Roll is a little bit too repetitive, but
yeah, Love Bites is a great track.
The Free Will Burning,
yeah,
Jawbreaker is just Well,
just kick-ass heavy
I
metal.
wish I never learned about what that song was about.
Just like knocking at your back door.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so our heavy metal heroes are not quite as squeaky clean as we might have thought.
No, not quite. But
What
I saw this tour twice too. I saw him in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania.
Okay, I saw him at the Cow Palace in San Francisco. Another band called Kick-Axe opened up for
Right
him,
on.
and I've loved them ever since.
You know, and '84 was a huge year for me because I went to. It was like the year I could finally drive and go to concerts.
Right.
So yeah, I saw a ton of
84,
concerts.
yeah, I saw a lot in 83.
I saw that.
84
As a
too.
matter of fact, I saw QUEENSRYCHE on that tour as well. They were opening up for Kiss on the Animalize tour. So
Oh, okay.
they had this huge drum set with this chains hanging everything, and all the cymbals were hanging off the chains. It was-
Yes, I remember.
Yep.
We didn't mention this one. We mentioned a few songs, but one of my favorite cuts on this album is Sentinel.
Yeah. It's a great song, too.
What a heavy. Another one of Rob Halford's kind of dark characters that it's just something about him. Rob has a talent for writing characters like that. He's done it several times, and it never gets boring necessarily. Sometimes it gets a little goofy, but for the most part, they nailed it. Really, they nailed it. Real
I think
hard.
the only thing that could have made this album a tad bit better if they would have had a better drummer.
Was this still
Yep.
Dave Holland?
Holland.
Okay, so this is prior to Scott Travis joining
Yeah.
up.
But it's still. I mean, I'm not knocking it at all. It's a great album. It's one of my
I mean,
favorites.
it's one of the heaviest things out as far as classic heavy metal goes. Man, it was. And this, this is after the advent of Metallica, but Priest had already really solidified themselves as a heavy metal force to be reckoned with.
Oh yeah, they were just the monsters of,
Yep.
of the genre, really. Next one up. This is my definition of U.S. power metal.
I can't believe that this came out in '84. I thought this came out later. Wow.
84. These guys are around since I'm pretty sure because like 79 or 80 when they formed. Because I have a demo.
That's their first album.
This is their first album.
Wow.
And yeah. So U.S. power metal. What does it power metal mean? Why did we call it power metal back then? Because it wasn't thrash. It wasn't Metallica or
It just
Megadeth.
sounded. It was powerful.
But it
sounding
wasn't
metal.
Priest either.
Right.
It-
I remember. I mean, even when Ride the Lightning came out,
People
they
were
were calling it
power metal. Yep.
Yeah, because nobody knew what to call it.
Yeah, we weren't really calling it thrash yet.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Towards the end of that,
Yeah. Then it
thrash
becoming-
started becoming.
But this was right
That's
along
it.
with it to me back then. And the vocals on this thing, another rest in peace.
Oh, David
Wayne.
Yeah.
Oh, and
that's
I always
right.
love this. I keep it in the back. This is the order form that came with the original pressing. The Metal Church Death Race.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That is
I'm
awesome.
surprised no more people did do that.
I wish I had one of those.
We'll see if you can get it.
Maybe if I ordered, right?
Have you ever looked for one on eBay? I bet you they have
I
one.
wouldn't doubt it. So,
All right, so what did we have on here? I know we had the deep purple cover of Highway Star.
yes. We had Beyond the Black. The
Song Metal Church.
Merciless Onslaughts. Hitman in the Blood. Battalions. And of course, Highway Star. It's just a balls to the wall, speedy, heavy metal album. I mean,
So David Wayne departed after this one, or
this
after
was
the next
this was
one?
their first. This was their first release. It was the second release had David Wayne on it, and the third album he was given his walking papers.
Okay, the second one was called The Dark.
The Dark.
All right, third one was Blessing in Disguise.
Right.
Okay.
And David Wayne actually was writing with the band for Blessing in Disguise when he was kicked out of the band for whatever reason or left the band. Or
Not sure
whatever.
why.
Nope. Not sure.
And then
why.
he went on to form Reverend
Reverend.
and Wayne.
He went on to form He went on to form Reverend with the ex guys from Heretic.
Okay.
And then the vocalist from Heretic went on to be the singer for Metal Church.
Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah.
All right, I mentioned these guys last time. They opened up for Priest on the Defenders of the Faith tour. This was one that was not on Scott's top.
This
10.
is actually a big shock for me. I did not think he put it this high on the list.
I love this album. I don't know why. I saw them open for Priest. I got the album, and there's just something about this album that has stuck with me for years. I love the writing, and I love the style, and I love the sound. And really, these guys were trying to prime these guys to be the next big thing after Quiet Riot. They were on the Pasha label, so they wanted to continue that formula that worked. And to me, they don't sound anything like Quiet Riot,
No.
but there's still that kind of classic.
But they fit alongside of him.
Yeah, but without that dash of goofy, I guess. Although the cover sucks ass.
I never did understand that cover.
It's the dumbest cover. All right, the logo's pretty cool looking, but then we've got the kind of post-apocalyptic destroyed planet landscape, cool looking metal logo, and then we got Mr. Big Eyeball Vice Man chewing on the cover. That was the title. Like, what the hell were you guys thinking? This is definitely one of the stupidest album covers for a great album, in my opinion. But yeah, really goofy. So goofy, in fact, that I was messing with it, and I completely took that guy out. And I found this picture of a warrior throwing an axe, and I put it in there, and just for my own fun. But yeah, the cover, it's got to go. Great colors and great, nice painting in the background. But what the hell?
It's actually well done.
It is.
But for what it is, but it's just.
But what is it?
Who came up with that idea?
It's like there's being weird and there's being trippy, but then there's just being.
So you think they went to practice one day and dude, I got this great idea for a cover.
Oh, have you seen the videos?
No. I don't
the guy is in the videos. Mr. Vicehead is in the videos, and he talks. It's very, very disturbing.
I guess I haven't seen that. That's just wrong.
Yeah, that's the one thing about this band I couldn't really get behind was Mr. Vicehead, or whatever the hell his name is. Yeah.
But would you put him alongside of Helix, sound-wise?
Yeah, maybe. I think maybe a little more. What's the word?
Killer Dwarfs and that kind of stuff.
I don't know them well enough. Maybe a little more fluid than Helix. I don't know. I think I like the songwriting style that they had. I didn't mention any of the tracks. I mean, good heavy stuff, but it's still got a lot of catchy hooks. Great ballad on here called "Dreaming About You," which is probably one of my favorite of those types of songs from the 80s. Such a great song. And really, the lyrics are fairly intelligent for the most part, once you get past Mr. Vicehead guy. And things like, there's a song called "Heavy Metal Shuffle," and the riff is a shuffle continually, and it's like the Twist, but it's the heavy metal version of the Twist, I guess. I don't know. I just dig it.
Nostalgia is a pretty powerful thing.
It is. It is.
Same thing with this one for me.
Yeah.
YNGWIE MALMSTEENS, very first Rising Force album.
I was very excited when this came out.
Mostly a instrumental album.
Yep.
We called it instrumental back in the day.
Whatever.
Yep. There's only 2 songs on here that had vocals. Jeff Scott Soto sang, and man, could that guy sing.
What a set of pipes he had.
Jeez.
Damn.
Awesome.
And out of nowhere, it's like, who the hell is this guy?
And how did I discover this? I walked into a record store in the mall, and I'm going through the heavy metal records, and a guy at the store says, "Hey man, you need to check this out," and he handed it to me. He's like, "What?" He goes, "Oh, it's YNGWIE MALMSTEEN." I'm like, "Wait, isn't that the guy who used to be in Alcatraz?"
And Steeler.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize he had a solo album out.
Well, YNGWIE had already kind of established himself as the next big guitar god.
Yep.
After, I don't know, he was kind of the start of that whole thing. And we had the original guys. We had Page. We had Blackmore.
Yeah, but they were different. Guys. Yeah.
This was start of a guitar god wave, really. That Steve Vai came and Satriani and all those guys, all the Shrapnel guys, and all the just that whole guitar god.
Yeah, the whole
movement,
the whole shred.
He kind of started it.
He really did.
And really, I remember hearing that this was coming out because I already heard Steeler and I'd heard Alcatraz.
Yeah, I had heard Steeler. I saw Alcatraz with Ted Nugent. They were opening for Ted Nugent with YNGWIE, and I just didn't realize that he had a solo album out already.
Yeah.
So when the guy pulled out, I'm like, dude.
Yeah,
so I
was really excited about it. And it's just the presentation of it. It's a pretty cool presentation.
It is a pretty cool cover.
I mean,
you got the Jimi Hendrix / Richie Blackmore.
Yep. And it's like, instead of the lady in the lake handing Excalibur to King Arthur, it's the lady in the fire handing the Strat to YNGWIE. Exactly. And I like the way he puts the J in the middle so you don't mix him up with all the other YNGWIEs.
Oh, that's clever.
YNGWIE MALMSTEENS. Yes.
Clever.
There's a fine line.
A fine line between clever and stupid, yeah. Anyhow, I got another one.
Picture on
like
the
I said, 84, 85. This is when I was a teenager going to concerts, went to see him at a club. It was the Rape and Pillage tour. I wonder if you could get away with that now.
Rape and Pillage
Rape and Pillage tour. And he played almost every single song on this album. It was just
Far Beyond the Sun, great song. Evil Eye, Icarus. I mean, very, very classically flavored.
And Evil wasn't. No, let me think. Was Evil Eye on the Alcatraz live album?
I don't recall.
Might have been.
Was there Black Star?
Black
the
Star,
opening. I
yep.
love that cut. Love that.
Anyhow, I love this
Great
album. It's
and
still
the next one was pretty good too. Not quite as good as this. This was still kind of exotic.
I think it's because he got really it was just. I don't remember what it was. It was something with the record label. He had to do the instrumental thing, and he was still in a contract with Alcatraz or what the heck the deal was.
I'm not sure.
But I think because it was all instrumental, he was just able to express himself a little more than when he.
And I mean, Yngwie's got a. As much as the whole guitar god thing has been done and overdone, and it's like nothing new. Yngwie had a pretty unique sound at the time. I mean, very fast.
Although he honestly did, and people just didn't realize it, steal a lot of his shtick from Yngwie.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that.
Even his name, even the name
Richie,
even the name Rising Force was taken from.
Yeah, and he was obviously Blackmore worship.
Yeah, it was Blackmore,
all over the place.
Blackmore,
and
Hendrix, and Yngwie.
Yeah,
that's were the ones. Yep.
And Yngwie had plenty of Hendrix influence.
Oh yeah,
plenty. This is a great album. I get into it later. I did not have this when it came out in '85. I remember hearing about these guys. This was the beginnings of the Sabbath sound. St. Vitus and Trouble were the two early bands that took the Sabbath sound and they expanded on it. They made it their own. They did it their own way. I didn't hear this album until years later, and it's on a punk label. Used to be strictly punk. SST. Black Flag was on SST. Of course, now my brain farts and I can't remember any other bands were on SST, but mostly it was punk bands. The hardcore stuff in the 80s. St. Vitus they weren't calling it doom at this point, but it was definitely that Sabbath-styled slow.
Very slow.
Very slow. Much slower than Sabbath ever was. I mean,
they
took
say
it.
my songs are much too slow.
And this one in particular, there's a couple on here that are very slow. Burial at Sea, Zombie Hunger is another slow one. So this one, St. Vitus, obviously they kind of took their cue from St. Vitus Dance from the Volume 4 album. And to me, it was always a cross of like the slow Sabbath kind of metal and a punk band kind of mixed together. Kind of like Poom, if you will. Or Dunk. Because, these guys' name has influenced Motorhead, Black Flag. They even did a Black Flag cover later on. But this is pretty cool stuff. Very stripped down, very no-nonsense Black Sabbath-style doom. With no bullshit at all, really.
And the vocalist of this was Scott Regers. Before Wino. And Wino really...
Wino was hand-picked by Scott Regers. He wanted him to replace him when he had to leave. And Scott's touring with him again right now, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, cool album. 5 songs, EP, so technically.
Yep.
That one's got the foil embossed cover.
That one does.
Or this one does, and that one's just more the gray.
Yeah.
The cheaper version. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yep. Doom. Dunk. Anthrax.
And we go from spouting this universal cosmic brute bullshit, basically, to a fistful of metal rammed through your
Anthrax.
I don't think I've ever seen another cover quite like this.
Nope, definitely not.
Not one that I liked.
This is another local band for me. When I grew up in New Jersey, these guys were local guys. I bought the Soldiers of Metal 45.
Oh yeah.
Loved it. Couldn't wait for it to come out with the whole album.
What was on that? What was on?
Soldiers of Metal and was it Soldiers of Metal with Howling Furies?
I don't remember. I think you're right.
And
original vocalist on this one, Neil Turbin.
Neil Turbin.
Totally different.
And
sound.
Neil's still out playing. He plays with Death Riders these days, which is his band.
I liked Neil. I liked Neil.
Obviously.
Voice.
Yeah, I don't. There was. I read Scott Ian's book, and it was basically inner band fightings. They couldn't get along. It was either he leaves or I leave, and
Neil was a big mofo. He was a tall guy, and I think my buddy Greg Noggle said I remind him of Neil Turbin for some reason.
Anyhow,
that's
the Death Rider,
great
awesome.
song.
Soldiers of Metal is a classic.
Now, Metal Thrashing Mad, I prefer the one that came out on the Armed and Dangerous EP, but still a great song.
Yep, Panic, Subjugator. That's a song that kind of got forgotten about, but that's a great song.
Yep. 18, they did the Alice Cooper
cover. And I think that's, I always thought it was kind of, maybe it's just because I like the other songs so much, I always thought 18 was one of the weaker songs on the album.
Oh yeah, totally. It doesn't quite fit.
Right. It's not bad.
You know what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
I don't remember them I forgot they had a song called Anthrax.
Yep. And then Across the Rivers, which is basically the intro to Howling Furies. It's amazing, you know, Dan Lilker was all over these tracks, and then he was given the Left Foot of Fellowship too. So
Dan Lilker, the bass player. Oh, that's
player.
right. He was gone after this too.
Yep. Yeah, he was gone and went to
Nuclear Assault.
Yep.
And SOD later.
And SOD with Scott Ian and Charlie Benante.
So by the way, obviously it wasn't Scott and Charlie that had the issue with Dan.
Right.
It sounds like.
Yeah. Anyhow, I think Charlie Benante is one of the most underrated drummers.
He's a great drummer.
Great drummer.
As far as like the big four, I don't know. Dave Lombardo's pretty damn good too, and Garl Samuelson was too. It's all right. So whatever.
But I bet you could put Benante into any of the other three bands, and he'd be able to.
Yeah, Benante's he's great.
He's a monster.
He's definitely great, and he can play guitar.
I love this album. I was in high school. I bought it as a brand new release. Couldn't get enough of it. My friends in Heathen's Rage were playing these songs live before anybody else even knew who the heck they were. So.
I didn't get into this one till later. I think the first Anthrax I got into was the Armed and Dangerous EP. And then when Spreading the Disease came out, wow, what a great record that was. Alright, so when this one came out, would be the first one, Wasp, Animal, Fuck Like a Beast. Wow. I was so impressed with that song. I mean, granted, you know, you didn't hear people saying the F word in metal songs every day.
But it wasn't just the F word. It was the way he delivered the vocals.
Yeah, I mean, it was very primal, and his voice. Seldom others can sound like. I
describe it as over the top. He was just way over the top. You know.
He was almost like a Gene Simmons on steroids in some ways, and the way he spit it out. Fuck like a beast, and I've got this buzzsaw between my legs. It's like, damn.
And then you later learn how the song was inspired about.
I don't.
Oh, it was inspired by that. What was that comedian that used to scream all the time?
Bobcat Goldthwait?
No. The one that passed away. He was a real metalhead, kind of a big guy. Oh, I can't remember.
Oh, Sam Kinison.
Yeah, Kinison. He was talking about having to, do his wife, and then I always have to fuck that beast.
That's where it came from.
It was a joke. Yeah.
That's funny because I would have thought Sam Kinison was later. I don't remember, but okay. So same year, later on, Self-Titled comes out, and apparently that was supposed to be on it.
But
it was obviously, for obvious reasons, this came out as an EP only, and it was on more independent, not independent, but the smaller labels that were putting out metal. Big labels for metal, but small labels in comparison to.
This is on Restless, actually. Restless Records.
But originally it was on Music for Nations.
That's yours. Nope, this is yours.
Oh, no sticker.
Yep.
Okay, that's a later one then. My original one was on Music for Nations, and this was on EMI and Capitol.
Yep. Major label.
Big difference. EMI Capitol is not going to put a song on there that is called "Fuck Like a Beast." It's just not going to happen. This was the Beatles' American label. That's not going to happen. I'm surprised they took Wasp at all. I mean, as far as like the PMRC's Wet Dream, these guys were it.
Yep.
I mean, they played right into it. Really, they're just like.
They used it to their advantage.
Oh, totally.
Yep.
It's like they fashioned their whole look and attitude.
It was they took what Kiss and Alice Cooper had done before, and they took it to the next
extreme.
level.
Just like I was talking about
the
skull and bones and the pentagram. You take it to the extreme. That's what Wasp was all about. And Wasp had a great sound. But
the songs were there too. They had
Blackie Lost was an excellent song.
They had hooks.
Yep, they did. I mean, granted, some of the songs took a left turn as far as like, just a little bit too much gratuitous sexual bullshit, but you got songs like Sleeping in the Fire on here that's like, it's pretty heavy. It's just very emotive, but without being cheeseball. And you got stupid things too, but for the most part, Blackie Lawless, great songwriter.
Yep.
Incredible songwriter. I mean,
Still doing it today.
He did his time with Arthur Kane of the New York Dolls. They had the Killer Kane Band, and even back then, you can see Blackie's songwriting is still, it's pretty solid. And then he went, what was it, Circus before he formed the Wasp?
Something like that.
Circus had, Randy Piper was in Circus too.
Then Ace Frehley was involved with him somehow too for a while.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've got pictures of him hanging outside of a hotel waiting for Ace to come out of his room because like it was legendary back in the late 70s, you know. Anyhow.
So I think right here this is classic Wasp.
That's it. We're on to our top 5. Yep. Dun, 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 dun. Top 5. All right, we easily agreed on this one.
Oh yeah.
Easily.
What is the difference here?
I don't know. They're both yours. Didn't bring mine because I knew you had it.
Oh, I know what it is. Okay, so 1984. I remember when these guys came out.
Me too.
In 1984, there were a glut of bands that were spouting, Satan, 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 Satan.
A lot of them.
A ton. I mean, STRYPER was like a breath of fresh air in many respects. These guys also Trouble.
Yep.
Biblical themes in the lyrics. I mean, we've got The Tempter. We've got Revelation, Life or Death. We've got Bastards Will Pay, Fall of Lucifer, End Time, Psalm 9. Okay, back then they were calling this stuff white metal.
Yep.
And I was really interested in it, but it was another one of those things. It's like I just never got around to getting it, and probably because I didn't find any used. I couldn't afford to get the new album, and it never came up used, so I didn't get it till years later. But wow, what a great album!
And even this is even where the Lord shall be a time. The Lord shall be, let me try one more time. The Lord will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in the times of trouble. Psalm 9:9 on the back.
Right. So Trouble actually pulled their name from that Bible verse. Now I think the difference between these is one's black vinyl, one's white.
Yep, I'm pretty sure that's probably it is. I still have my original white vinyl. It was actually a single. And you
I didn't realize I had both of them.
There's actually a single that came out for this too, which you probably have.
It was Assassin and Tales of Brave Ulysses.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got the white vinyl one there, which Scott knows this. I'm not a fan of colored vinyl.
I don't mind. I'll usually go for the black vinyl, but I don't mind them.
Well, for me, it's just a practical thing. I can't see scratches on white vinyl. I can't see it on colored vinyl, so I want to know what I'm getting. But that's cool. I get a lyric and sheet.
People were generally calling them Doom, but I never really saw them as Doom. They were just heavy. They were kind of slow.
I don't know. Were they calling it Doom back then?
I don't think they were. But
I think I
can remember when the third album came out. People were all bummed out because they're not doing Doom anymore. It's like
it was just a little bit more. Like I think they added some keyboards in the third album, but the general feel was the same. I mean, a lot of Eric Wagner's vocals were his Jeff Olson, the drummer, wrote a lot of the Christian themed lyrics. He was responsible for those. Eric's stuff sort of tended towards the depressed.
Yep.
And thinking about the past and all that stuff. I mean, that's kind of like as doomy as it gets. But I don't know. To me, Trouble's got a real solid catalog, and it's really stood up over the years.
And who sounds like him?
Nobody sounds like Eric Wagner singing, and really.
And I struggle really. I like the Skull, but I have a real hard time with Trouble without Eric Wagner in it.
To be honest, I haven't really listened. I love the Skull. I mean, because it sounds like Trouble. Because, let's face it, singer is one of the hardest positions to.
But same thing with this band. It's also though Bruce Franklin's guitar sound was very unique.
And together with Rick Wartell, they had a pretty neat twin guitar.
Like you've heard that Generation album, right? The industrial album with Bruce Franklin on it.
No, actually, I haven't. I've heard Super Shine.
No, there's a Generation. It's an industrial album. Bruce Franklin plays all the guitar parts on it.
Is it his project?
It's his project. It's not his project. It's a band's called Generation.
Oh, okay.
It's industrial music, but he's the guitar player in the band.
I want to check that out. I didn't know about that.
It's very, very cool. It's on Metal Blade Records, but it's that same guitar tone.
Yeah, I remember something about Metallica was playing with Trouble, like Trouble had opened for him or something, and James and Kirk were like going up to Bruce like, how do you get that sound? And so it's that tone. I mean, Doom is kind of centered around that guitar tone specifically and the riffs. But it's just a certain feel that it has. And it's not your typical metal sound.
Yep.
It's a much more...
Almost a 70s...
Yeah, very 70s, a little bit more subdued, like a Velvet Hammer as opposed to like a claw hammer,
And I always love the cover. The
very
place,
cool.
The place of skulls, the place where Christ died. And if you look closely, the tree, there's the crucified Christ on the cross.
You can see the person that's in the tree. I remember when I first saw that, I was like, wow. Now, originally this album was called Trouble.
Right, and it's still, this is Trouble here.
Yeah,
but
it was
reissues, they on like CD and stuff, they're now calling it Psalm 9.
They call it Psalm 9 because they had another self-titled Trouble album in 1990.
Their fourth album, yeah. Okay, next up, another one we had no problem with agreeing on. I'll let you chat on that one a little more.
Sabotage, Dungeons Are Calling. For all intents and purposes, an EP. It's another 6-song. Followed on the heels of Sirens, which was a great metal album. Sabotage is a pretty unique sounding Florida metal band. Chris Oliver, the guitar player, came up with some really great, very Sabbath-inspired riffs, I think, especially on this one. Man,
another rest in peace.
Yes, Chris, I think 93, we lost him.
Yep.
City Beneath the Surface was the song that really got to me on this one, and it's just a great... It's
very driving.
Yeah, very Iommi type, you know, like a riff you'd find on Sabotage or something.
Or I always thought of it like a Neon Nights kind of song.
Yep. Dungeons Are Calling, the title track, great one. Yeah. By the Grace of the Witch, Vision. There's not a bad song on here. They always did kind of look like stick a perverse song on here. The one on here was called The Whip, which was kind of like a S&M kind of sounding song. The first one had Twisted Little Sister, I think. That was like just a sexual thing. It's like they had to throw that in for something. I don't know. And we get the goofy ass cover, which I always liked. People think it's a turkey baster, but what actually it is, sticking out of the skull. Dungeons Are Calling is a song about addiction, and that's actually a homemade hypodermic syringe for shooting up heroin or whatever your drug of choice was.
But I can understand why people. It does look like a turkey baster.
It does. I think because it's so big. Because if you look at it in comparison to the skull, it's actually not that big.
Yeah, because it's actually smaller than the eyeball.
Yeah, and it's got the original Sabotage logo on it, which I like. They reissued this later with different logo, basically the same picture. But I always love this cover, and you know it's got orange on it. That's probably part of why.
Number 3.
Usually we don't do greatest hits.
Usually we do not put compilations in these things. Have we ever shown one? Yeah, I think we might have.
A couple.
I think we did show the first Metal Massacre in
yes,
one of ours.
we did. There might have been one other one, but it was a good reason.
Yes, and this one is a good reason too. This is a turn of a chapter in Motorhead.
Huge one.
And this is Randy's, but I have the same one. But this is the leather album of no addiction.
No remorse. No addiction.
I don't know.
And I've got my other regular cover right up there. It's got the red Motorhead logo and the No Remorse in red under it. It was the regular. But although I think there was another one that was just a regular one, same looking cover with no logo.
But it's basically a compilation of their 70s stuff. There's a couple songs here with Robbo on guitar, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, Dancing on Your Grave and Shine. But it also had stuff that was only available on like EPs or like Emergency.
Emergency was from the Girls' School,
right?
The Valentine's Day Massacre.
But
there were 4 new songs on here too.
But this album also introduced the fact that they went from a power trio
to a four-piece
band, and it introduced the 2 new guitar players. So you had
Wurzler and Phil Campbell came into. It took 2 guitar players to come in and fill Fast Eddie's shoes, apparently. No.
And I actually read that he did that on purpose because he never wanted to be without a guitar player.
Oh, that makes sense. And that's kind of how it went, too.
Yeah, it was.
Because Phil Campbell was with him. That was it. He was with him till the end.
So there are other songs on here. Louie was like a single.
That's an early one.
Class with Wendy Williams was a single.
The CD version has Stand By Your Man on it as well.
So we had new songs on here. Dancing on Your Grave. No, that wasn't. That was it.
Snaggletooth was a new one. Killed by Death was a new one.
Which was a huge one.
Steal Your Face was a new one, and Locomotive. One on each side of the album, there's a brand new song.
Yep, and every one of them was essential Motorhead.
Oh yeah, I mean you don't. It was great.
Well, I mean, obviously we wouldn't have it in the top 5 if we didn't love it. So
if you don't have any Motorhead, get this.
There you go.
And if you want to get into Motorhead, this will hook you, and you'll get the rest. But this is a great place to start. It's got the seminal stuff on there.
This was released a leather edition on cassette too, which I used to have.
Oh yeah.
Because it had a leather cassette wrapped around it. That was cool. I wouldn't mind having that again just because it was so cool. Anyhow,
I can't remember where I
No
found
Remorse.
this. I probably grabbed it on eBay or something.
Yeah, mine was bought for me by my girlfriend, who is now my wife. Back when we were dating.
That one?
No, that went in the 1990. But when I started rebuying records, it was one of the first ones I looked for. Got it on eBay for almost nothing because nobody was buying vinyl back then.
Yeah, that's true.
So this one, we actually had it at number 1.
Yeah,
we
which
battled it around.
Which was kind of a mix-up. I mean,
so it's not
by today's standards, it would probably be my number 1.
But anyhow,
great album. Mercyful Fate, Don't Break the Oath. It was highly anticipated follow-up to Melissa. They were one of the hugest metal bands, at least in the underground, at the time.
they're pretty well known. And this is another one. I painted this on the back of a guy's jacket in high school.
It's a pretty neat cover.
It is a very neat cover.
It's
I must confess,
menacing as hell.
I found this much harder to paint than like the Eddie or something like that.
Oh yeah,
it's more the flames is smoother.
Yeah, and there's a brightness to it that I think that's hard to pull off.
But I mean, the songs on here, A Dangerous Meeting.
That's
those vocals, man.
I'll tell you what. Again, this is another one of those bands for me, and I say this every time. I don't want to listen to Mercyful Fate. I saw that first cover with the nun on the cross, and oh my, what's up with these freaks? I didn't want to know them, so I ignored them. And then my friend, Mike Cameron, I was visiting at his house. He played this friggin' album, and it was A Dangerous Meeting, and it was like, wow, what's this? And I knew it. As soon as I heard it, I was gonna love it, and I did, man. A Dangerous Meeting.
Well, it's not only his vocals are otherworldly and
so
haunting.
unique.
I mean, it's definitely a falsetto thing, but
Yeah.
it's just very cool, unique.
He's a great singer, and he's creative. It's not just. I mean, it's hard to tell with a band like this that's so like in your face, Satan, Satan, Satan. You try to look for I do anyway. You try to look for the things about it that are appealing, so that it's not just they're all right. It's the Satan thing, and it's taking me over and possessing. Blah. No,
the thing that
King is he's very dramatic, and he's very creative with the kind of melodies he comes up with, despite all the other crap.
But it's not just King. The Sherman Denner thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
Michael Sherman and Hank Sherman and Michael Denner.
Yep.
Great. One of the great unsung dual
guitars, and those dual guitar harmonies. Oh my goodness!
Amazing. These guys, Mercyful Fate, I think, is like the ultimate cross between Priest and Maiden. They had elements of both that just came together in such a cool way, but yet they're not like either of those bands. Nope. It's like a great mix.
Yep, but they definitely have that influence on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way you can not say that there wasn't a Priest influence on this.
Oh yeah, got it. Oh, King. As soon as I heard Mercyful Fate cover the Ripper on one of the Priest tribute albums, I was like, oh yeah, King was totally into Halford. He had to be.
Yep. Nightmare, Desecration of Souls,
Great
love song. Come to the Sabbath, 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 Sabbath. Anyhow,
Gypsy's killer. I mean,
my least favorite song in here is The Oath.
If it's a killer song, it's for me personally because of my own beliefs and yours as well. It's just too much. It's far too into the religion that King subscribes to. It's a satanic prayer renouncing Christ, and it's just too much for me. It's the only song that they do that I will no longer listen to. I struggled with it for a long time because I loved the band, but I just couldn't live with some of what they were talking about. And that song is the crux of the whole thing.
And that's obviously where the title comes from.
Right.
With
Mercyful Fate, it wasn't they weren't just, King was not just playing, he was really into this stuff. It wasn't just
Right, it wasn't just a shtick or a...
Yeah, to sell records. I mean, maybe he played it up that way to sell records, but he believed this stuff, so...
I gotta be honest, one thing that always bugged me about King, even back then when I did like him, was I thought he looked so... And this is just a weird picture of him, because you don't even actually see him. He's just in the shadows here, such a haunting picture. But in his actual picture, you can't see him. I just thought, what's up with the beard, with the mustache and the makeup?
I don't know, I always liked it. I don't know why.
I thought it was weird, it was like...
Because it's just, for some reason, I don't know why.
He just looked like Gene Simmons with a mustache to me.
This is number one.
This number one. And I'm sure it's not going to be a big shocker. Like
I wasn't done talking about that one. No, it's fine. Oh. I can say a lot about it. It's a great album. It's one of my favorites.
But yeah, this album here, blew me away back when it came out. I mean,
Yeah, much more so than its predecessor.
and I can remember even back then, this band was getting called a sellout already on this album.
Yes, you're right. You're right. They were. Metallica. Ride the Lightning, man.
And I picked this when I first started buying records again. I picked this up on eBay for like nothing.
Yeah.
I still have it.
And now, try getting it now for nothing.
Yeah, good luck.
So, Creeping Death EP, which has the original Guitar Strays revisited.
Right.
Am I Evil and Blitzkrieg.
Oh, and I love those two songs. And that's how I discovered Diamond Head.
You know what's funny? That's how most people discovered Diamond Head. I discovered Diamond Head because I saw Megadeth in '84 playing in a bar.
Right. And
Dave was wearing a Diamond Head shirt. I was like, I've heard of those guys. I want to check them out. I went and I found the Bar of Time album the next day. And so it's funny the way that things like that go. But Ride the Lightning, damn.
Yep.
Okay, it wasn't as thrashy as Kill 'Em All. But
it really was. It just...
Well, I mean, it wasn't as thrashy consistently, I guess.
Right.
Fight Fire with Fire, wow.
Yep.
One of the fastest songs at the time. Maybe outdone by Battery on the next one or whatever. But just unbelievable. I mean, fast. That was one of their things, but they showed that there was more to them than just that speed.
I was kind of shocked that they still were ripping off of Mustaine's riffs on there too. And
Ride the Lightning was a Mustaine riff,
and so was Call. Was that what was it?
Well, that was a
Call Cthulhu.
I thought that was a Cliff song.
I'm pretty sure the Call Cthulhu had it. Let me look it up now. I'm pretty sure that was one of Mustaine's riffs as well.
I know for sure Ride the Lightning was one, and it was one of the other four songs.
I can't imagine how. I mean, you can almost understand on the first album, but how did it come? How on the second album, you still were using the guy's riffs?
Okay, Fight Fire was okay. Mustaine is credited on Ride the Lightning.
Which Call down here?
Oh, he is. You're right. Call of Cthulhu, which used to be called When Hell Freezes Over. He was credited on that too, so there must have been a part.
At least they gave him credit, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean they did credit, and I'm sure that means that he gets something.
But I even like the album cover on this one, and this is another one I painted on the back of somebody's jacket in high school. I did. I wish I still had the photos because they were so cool.
Look at Kirk's dirty socks. That's disgusting.
But yeah, I mean, it's a heavy record. Of course, what people were calling the sellout at the time was Fade to Black. Very dark
and Escape
song. Very dark song.
Yeah. Suicide song.
I mean, people were calling it a ballad. I guess it is a ballad. It's not your...
I mean, a ballad is a song that tells a story, if you really want to get technical about it. So, what people call ballads, that soft love song kind of thing.
No, it's not that.
Not completely
accurate. If you're going to call it just because it's slower, then that means you're going to call like... Priest did a ton of them in the early days.
Right. So it's stupid. I mean, the stupidest people tend to squawk the loudest, I think is what happens. So we always hear stupid opinions, and we hear them more than we'd like to. Personally, I flipped this thing over endlessly when I first got it. I was so into this album, much more so than Kill 'Em All.
I played this thing so much, I'm sure I wore the grooves to the next side.
There's probably not another Metallica album that I was more excited about or more into than this one.
And they looked cool back then too. At least I thought so back in the day.
Still...
And you know, to be honest with you, when I was listening to all these albums again to do this video, I hadn't heard this thing in years. For some reason Metallica doesn't. I just don't listen to them that much anymore. So, but I pulled this CD out. I threw it in my car and I'm listening to them like, oh my gosh, this CD is awesome! I forgot how great this CD is. I hadn't heard it in a long time.
He shows up and he's like, I don't know. You really want to put Mercyful Fate as #1? I was like, no. We got to do Ride the Lightning. That's just dumb.
Yep.
I mean, for as much as we slag on Metallica now for all the nonsense that they've done, you cannot deny the strength of those early albums. Yep. You just can't. And
this is the band everybody seems to love to hate anymore. And
sure. I mean, I'm guilty of that too. Because they don't inspire me anymore.
Yeah.
They used to inspire me, and they just don't anymore. And that's fine. They're obviously inspiring somebody, because there's plenty of people that are still buying their records, and that's more power to you.
No doubt.
They're just not my thing anymore.
But yeah, great album. #1.
That was #1.
1984. And that was a tough.
That was a long-ass one.
Yeah, that was... That's it?
Yeah!
Hope you enjoyed it.
Metal!
Go ahead and check out the Stone Grooves website.
StoneGrooveRecords.net.
Yep.
It's all under one place now. It's not confusing at all.
I will put a link to Stone Grooves. I will put a link to the Stone Grooves YouTube channel as well. And do leave a thumbs up if you liked it. Thumbs down if you didn't. I will answer everybody who leaves a message on there, regardless of what you have to say.
And hopefully, yeah, and when you say stuff that's stupid, it's a lot of fun. When you say stuff that we don't disagree with, it can sometimes turn into cool conversations.
Yep.
And when you say stuff that we totally agree with, then we're the Metal Brothers! Right?
That's all. That's it. Thanks for watching. God bless. And stay
And R.I.P. That Metal Show.
Yep.
Bye.
Later.
Thanks for making room for us.
And that was only, that was less than half of what we had on our list.
Yeah, and this is probably the list that we had the most disagreements on as far as what to include and what not to.
We left off Dokken, Tooth and Nail.
That's a good one.
We left off Crocus, the Blitz. We left off Black Death.
Black Death. What about Sound Barrier?
Black Death. Oh, speaking of Black Metal Theologian, who I really wanted to be a part of this thing, his #1 pick, Black Death.
That was his #1?
#1 pick.
I'm gonna have to go check that out.
That was his #1 pick.
I mean, you can't. How can you resist something like that?
I don't know.
A bunch of black dudes trying to do.
He was telling me how much he hated that Kick-Axe album. We were going back and forth about the 1984 album, and I was list, and I said, Randy picked it in his top 10. He was like, he couldn't believe it.
And I can't believe he put Black Death in his.
So there you go. I mean,
when I heard Jump, when I first heard it, I was like, I do not want to like this song. I will not like this song. And I did. I still liked it. But it's not the Van Halen that blew me away in 1978.
Might as well, Joe.
Might as well.
Might as well. I think I'm on my last one, so you have one more to go?
Yes, you do. 2. Well, yes, it is 1.
So we have, this is 12 and 11, right? Yeah.
Okay, sure.
No?
Actually, it's 11 and 11.
11 and 11? Which makes, see, 22?
It's 11 twice. It's 11 twice, isn't it?
I don't know. It's 7 and 6. That's where we're at.
7 and 6.
Yeah, because
no, it's 6 and 6.
Oh,
but because you are doing 10 through 6, and I'm doing 10 through 6.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
So there was no 11, technically.
No 11.
Well, 11.
Oh, well,
11 is.
We had Spinal Tap, and so that could be 11.
11 is.
There. That's universally true.
Exactly.
Watching this massive marathon of a video.
Here's my belly button. See? I just wanted to share.
I just wanted to share.